So talking about science, of course, is there anything interesting that you've seen lately on the news?
So lately, I've seen obviously a very, very historic feat has been actually achieved by SpaceX, which is a company, and the CEO, as many of you may know, is one of the world's richest men, Elon Musk.
Of course.
And yeah, obviously, as I talked about earlier, during lockdown, I researched a lot of things. I got to know a lot more things. And one of the things was Elon Musk's vision into space, space and humanity's progress into space travel, maybe conquering new worlds, maybe making other worlds, maybe like Mars, habitable. And yeah, he has a very tremendous vision. And recently, his company, one of his many companies, SpaceX, have actually gotten far enough to be the pioneers of spacecraft technology. So when I say that, I mean that basically a few days ago, they were the first ones to recapture a space booster or a rocket booster as it came back from out of the atmosphere to back onto Earth. And this is really, really historic because usually the rocket boosters are actually dumped into the oceans when they fall down.
I have a silly question. What's a booster?
A booster, okay. So
is that the bit at the bottom?
Yeah, that is basically a rocket has three main components.
Yes.
The main spacecraft, then the bit that attaches the booster, so the bit that thrusts the rocket into space.
Fine, yeah.
So the main spacecraft, the bit that attaches, and the booster, which propels the spacecraft out of the atmosphere.
Okay.
And basically, it's that booster after it propels the main spacecraft into the atmosphere and into Earth, or out of the atmosphere and into space. It detaches from the spacecraft and it usually lands into an ocean. And since the beginning of the spacecraft industry in 1957, I think, where the Soviets launched their first spacecraft into space as a satellite, it's been like a dream of astronauts, of scientists, of engineers who are in the space industry to be able to reuse these boosters and to be able to not have to waste all that manpower, all that time to extract that booster, which is in the ocean, and get it back, refurbish it, disassemble it, and fill it up with the propellant and the fuel, which takes a lot of time, a lot of manpower.
Yeah.
It takes specialized teams. It takes scuba divers. Well, not scuba divers.
Diving
teams. Sorry.
Yeah.
It takes diving teams to get the components of the spacecraft back, and overall that takes a lot of manpower and a lot of time. But as I said earlier, SpaceX was the first company and basically the pioneer of reusable space rocket boosters. And that makes, essentially, this is basically a historic feat because it makes space travel much cheaper, as you don't have to waste all that money, all that manpower to get the booster back.
Yeah.
And it opens up the doors of more frequent space travel, because the time it takes to get the propeller back is very short now. Yeah.
Oh, now it's a very short time.
Now it's very short. Yeah.
Why couldn't they make science interesting like this at school? Because I think I learned more being sat here versus me being in a class for like 2-3 years. So no, this is quite interesting. Okay, fair enough. So I mean, what did you like most about hearing about this news?
I would say the significance of the feat itself. It's not just a feat for the space industry, it's a feat for humanity, like all of humanity, because in the future, we don't know, because as you've probably heard in the news, we're probably trying to reuse, we're trying to cut down on our usage of like fossil fuels, because obviously global warming, the temperatures of the Earth getting hotter, and obviously if the Earth in the distant future becomes, I don't even know, uninhabitable, then we have to rely on maybe companies to make, this is just a distant thought, but make other planets maybe habitable, so that if if anything really bad happens to Earth, then we have other options, maybe like Mars, if we are able to make it habitable. But yeah, this feat is just like very, very significant, and it's a milestone in spacecraft and for humanity itself.
So does that mean you and I are going to get a flight to Mars maybe in the future?
Who knows? Maybe.